I just started the recording, and then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about, and we can just go ahead and get started.
Defend objective A. I have your back. This will heal you.
All right, so first thing I'm noticing is that we have a very fast, shaky sensitivity. So let's go over sensitivity just to begin here, because it looks very, very high at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sensitivity and DPI do you run at?
Let me check my DPI actually. If I can find it.
Mm-hmm.
Deal series. This was my first computer game actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I never like really learned about like DPI
Yeah.
and those sort of settings.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check my mouse. Oh my god, how do I check?
Yeah, so it should display in your mouse, like software. If you have software, I think you mentioned that you like have Steel Series. So it should be usually mouse software gives you the option to like adjust sensitivities. So it should show that as an option somewhere there. Like, let me see it. Let me open up on my end. Like my Razer mouse gives them the option in, where's it show? In performance is at least the tab that it has on Razer, but I'm unsure of where it'd be in Steel Series, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they like just changed the app, which is interesting to me. One moment.
We'll click
This
around
is
until you find it.
holy shit, yeah. I think it might be on my desktop somewhere. Oh, this is terrible. Where the heck? Oh my god, okay, I found it, finally.
Okay.
It says CPI, which is 400.
CPI, is that what he said?
Yeah.
I wonder if that means like centimeters per inch. That doesn't sound like
Oh, counts per
DPI.
inch.
Counts per inch, huh? What was
Yeah.
that again? What did you say it was?
400?
400? Oh, that's very low if that is DPI. I wonder if that's the same thing. Let me do a quick Google search, see if that's the same thing.
Sure. And then in game, I believe it ranges from 13 to 14.
All right, counts
Which
per
is
inch is used to refer to the number of steps the mouse will report when it moves an inch. Dots per inch, on the other hand, is a measure of spatial. Okay. Yeah. So it looks as though it is different. Okay, never mind. It says they're exactly the same thing. Okay.
okay.
So you have 400 CPI, and then what was your in-game? What you say was?
14 or 13.
Okay, so then you have 400 by 13 will go on the low end there. So I mean you'd have an EDPI of 5,200. So that's actually not too bad of a sensitivity. Like I'd say that's not super high up there. Maybe I'm like wrong on what like CPI is when I looked it up, like, cause I'm not unfamiliar with what CPI is. So maybe there's a possibility that that's not the case, but in any case, sensitivity does look high here. While I'm looking at us aiming around. It could also be like that we're frantically looking around, which is another option there, but it does appear as though it was a high sensitivity. If you feel like that's the case, like, I might recommend lowering your sensitivity, as having too high of a sensitivity, most of the gaming community agrees that you're going to have more accuracy when it comes to lower sensitivities. So I want to say that, like, at least from like, maybe you can look at it and find out like afterwards and look for your DPI again.
Okay.
But in any case, right, usually to find your eDPI, it is your DPI times your sensitivity. And then if that's like really high, then I would say that, like, if that's higher than the current one, which right now I think you have like 5,000, right? If it gets any higher than that, like, I'd probably recommend lowering it. Even now, I might recommend lowering it a little bit. That might give you more control over your aim. But we spent a lot of time on this already, looking for that. So let's just continue on here.
Okay. So you said if it's higher than 5,000, I should lower it?
So it honestly, like, when it gets yeah. So let me think about explaining this. So it gets to a certain level of personal preference, but the majority of people agree that lower is going to be better, and then there are the oddballs who will have high sensitivities, like even up in professional levels. But yeah, for example, like, I'd say I have a pretty average low sensitivity, and I'm at like 3,600 eDPI. So your own one didn't honestly seem that high. I'd say you have more like a medium sensitivity. So it doesn't actually seem like, from that, doesn't seem as though you have a high sensitivity, but maybe the CPI wasn't accurate. The DPI, just like I said, I'm unfamiliar with what the difference is between them.
Right.
So if you find out the DPI is higher than the CPI or whatever, right, then that might be a little bit of a different story.
Okay.
Might recommend lowering it if it is super high.
I'm under attack.
I good self nade.
Objective A captured. Hello there.
Alright, it's unfortunate.
أنا هاخد بالي منك.
Could you at least stand in frame?
From afar.
Anyone need some healing?
Okay, so we might go more in depth on this at a later point, but at the moment I'd probably say being up on a high ground would probably be the way to go at the moment. High ground's just being very good positioning. Like I said, I think, I don't know if I want to go like super in depth on this at the moment, but that'd just be a comment here. I'm just looking for more things to go over. Looks like we're maybe waiting for a nano blade here. We're staring at Genji a little bit. Alright. So far seen a little bit of awareness, right? We've seen some awareness things, like, for example, in the last fight, McCree had walked up like right behind us and we didn't really seem to notice him. And then here Reinhardt like walks up like right in front of us and we don't seem to notice him, right? So this, it gets into the realm of awareness and paying attention to our environments, right? So when it comes to awareness, in both of these cases, probably say that comes down to like audio awareness. Some tips I'd recommend for audio awareness, going to like settings real quick, would be up your normal master volume if needed. I'd probably recommend turning down or off your music volume, as that can clutter with audio. Besides that, I would double check, make sure that you have surround sound enabled either on your headset, or if your headset does not have that as an option, turn on the in-game Dolby Atmos for headphones, and that will give you surround sound. And even if all these settings are pretty trash, like if you have bad settings and all this, you can still have good audio awareness if you are paying attention to your awareness, to your surroundings, right? So listen for footsteps, for gunshots, for abilities and ultimates, right? And then that gives us good audio awareness, so that we're not letting Reinhardt walk up into our face before we're recognizing that, right? Besides that, we'll maybe hold on to the high ground for the moment, and we'll go over that in a minute. But high ground also in this situation would be a good idea. I do like the Nano and the Genji here. That's a good idea. Pretty good timing on it as well. Right. Noting very like aggressive positioning. So in general, I'm trying to think. Why don't we go over
I
this
am
stuff
right in
already?
the middle there.
Yeah, we're gonna go over some positioning things just to begin here. All right. So in general, right, we're gonna go over some general positioning. One moment here.
Okay.
So if we're standing right here, right, and the whole enemy team's standing over there, and they're all shooting at us and whatnot, they're all looking at us, it's gonna take us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover, right?
Okay.
Now in that time it took us to get there, we ended up dying. And that means that, of course, we die. We'd lose all our value. But if we're, for example, standing right here, well, now we can do mostly the exact same things, except for it takes us half a second to duck behind cover, which is 6 times faster than when it just took us previously. So now we don't end up dying if we start getting shot at by their whole team, right? So therefore, in general, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover, right? When we don't have any cover. And covers are all over the place, right? We can use slopes like so. We can use pillars in between shots when we're reloading, when we're low health, when we're being shot at, right? We have corners that do the exact same thing. We have random objects sitting around the map like the payload, right? Pillar, corner, doorway, corner, right? It's all over the place, right? On top of this, high grounds all act as natural cover, right? They can see us, now they can't, right? They can see us, now they can't, right? So high grounds all act as natural cover. On top of this, most characters in the game can't reach you on the high grounds, right? 2/3 of them have to take the stairs, and then the third that can reach you have to use abilities, which means that now they're out of abilities. So this gives us an extra layer of survivability up against them. And then on top of that, from high ground, we have a ton of visibility, right? We can see people over here and over here. Over here and over there, but we're on a low ground. Well, now we can't see over there or over there, right? And we can't see any of the high grounds, right? So high ground's going to give us a lot of benefits, right? We see more, we are able to do more, we have more survivability. Making sure we're using cover as well. Now, when we die there to Doomfist, we're not on high ground. We're kind of really far out in the open, and we're also just kind of in the middle of the fight as well. So I would add into the positioning as well. Look to stay more towards the outskirts of the fight, right? You want to put a little bit of a distance between you. You don't want to be a mile away from the fight, but you do want to be a little bit away from the main bulk of where the fight is happening.
Okay.
Welcome to Holly Ready for Battle.
I'm as good. Last time I checked.
Alright, so we come back. Looks like we win the fight.
I could have walked faster than this.
Alright. Noticing maybe that we're not seeming to be using sleep in some of these scenarios. Like there, that probably would have been a perfect opportunity to use sleep. Previously there on the Sigma would have been a perfect opportunity to use sleep, right? So think, for example, like when we use Nade there, we're doing a little bit of damage, but like, are we stopping him from getting healed by any of his teammates if his teammates aren't there, right? Here with Doomfist, right, sleeping him means that our team is able to very easily secure a kill on him, right? Hanzo walks up, Hanzo headshots him, he's dead. You know, anybody on your team focuses him, he dies. Reinhardt charges him, he's dead, right? So sleep opens up for a very easy kill, and this also stops him from being able to damage us and stops him from being able to ult, right? So probably going for the sleep there, be pretty good idea. On the Sigma, be a good idea rather than just kind of shooting at them or even just using Nade.
Okay. How would I improve my sleep darts?
Yeah, so sleep darts, right, there's a couple things that goes into it, right? So firstly, when you're talking about improving anything, right, so when we're talking about improvement in general, right, you improve at things by focusing on them, right? And what that means is that you're not going to just play to play. You're not going to autopilot while you play. And contrary to popular belief, you're not going to just play purely to win, as when you do that, you end up just stagnating and not going anywhere, whereas when you play to improve, you end up actually winning more. Now, what that looks like specifically within getting better at sleep darts is while you're playing, you think in your head, sleep, 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 or abilities, 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 right? And when you're constantly giving yourself a reminder to think about sleep dart usage, then your sleep darts are probably going to look a little bit better because you're putting more concentration and effort into them and you're using them more often, right? So when we end up doing that, it forms it as a positive. And when we do that for a long enough period of time, it forms it as a positive habit. And then you can look to move on to something else and form something else as a habit because you no longer need to focus on it as much, right? Once you get sleep good, it's not something that you need to think about as much, right, as when you're focusing on it.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, so now I would recommend, we're going to go over a lot of things here. Don't try to do everything all at once. That'll get overwhelming. Focus on one category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. And then if categories are super unrelated or happening at different times, then you can do them both together. So for example, one I like to say is like ultimate usage happens like on average, right? Maybe 10 seconds once every 2 minutes. It's not happening very often. Whereas your ability usage and your awareness and your positioning are happening all the time. So your ultimate usage doesn't really overlap with the others very much. You can focus on ultimate usage and ability usage, but you can't focus on ability usage and positioning, or ability usage and awareness, because all of those are happening all the time, and that would become overwhelming. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So, continuing on here. Besides that, sleep usage. So putting concentration, effort. Make sure you're using it more often. Is so far maybe we've seen us not, at least within this past this past minute here, we haven't really been using it. So using it more often means we're gonna have more practice with it. Besides that, making sure we're looking to lead our, just understanding how it works. We might go more into this as it comes along, but I'll save one thing for if it comes up, but leading our shots. So if someone is further away, right, we're gonna aim further ahead of them with our sleep dart because it is a projectile. But I'll hold on to one thing and see if it needs to be talked about. If it does, we'll talk about it. But yeah, continuing on here. All right, so let's relook at this for half a second. Alright. So I think we're gonna start breaking some things down because I'm seeing a lot of a little bit of everything. So we're going to start going through a couple of them. Where to start? So why don't we begin, I guess in this scenario, right, fight is lost pretty much. Make sure that when you've lost the fight that we're looking to get out of the fight, right? We're looking to disengage. If you don't think you can get out, let them kill you. But either way, you don't want to just be in that middle stage where we just kind of die late. This ends up staggering you. You've been playing the game for 4 years, so I imagine you probably know that term.
Yep.
So we probably don't want to be doing that. We'll go more in depth on that if needed. Besides that, make sure we're looking to get high value on our ability usage, specifically our nades. Nades are very high-powered abilities. It is essentially like an ultimate on a cooldown, as when you land a 6-man anti-nade, that is in a lot of cases going to be more powerful than your nano boost. Now, you're not always going to land a 6-man, but the same can be said for a 5-man or 4-man, right? You're getting getting a lot of value out of that, as it cuts off the healing potential for their whole team, which creates much easier kills, right? So it does to a squishy target, right? To a non-tank, right? It's going to do 1/4 of their health, right? Which means if they're half HP, you are getting them stuck at 1/4 of their health, right? For 50 HP, you're getting them stuck at 50 HP for what, like the next 4 seconds, right? So, for example, if you were to nade Reinhardt right now, he's stuck at half HP for this extended period of time. This not only creates easier kills for your team, but it also creates pressure on the enemy team. Now they have to decide as a team, do we play passive and wait out the ante, in which case you've just created space for your team, or do you play and then therefore again because they're playing passive, your team is taking less damage, or do we play aggressive and push in, and then your team just melts them because they're purple, right?
Okay.
So Nade, very good. We want to make sure, as of the moment, it doesn't seem as though we're putting in the effort into Nade as that we could be putting into it. I just want to stress the importance of it. Now that I've stressed the importance of Nade, I also want to discuss how we can look to get nades off better.
Yeah.
So here we're gonna exit out here, go over nades a little bit, go over a lot of different theories with nade usage. So let's see where to start. So first off, make sure that when we're throwing nades, we're not trying to hit people directly. You do this because the splash is going to be a much wider radius than when you try to hit someone directly. If you try to hit somebody directly, your nade is just going to end up, having the possibility to just sail past them into nothingness, right? Whereas if you aim at the feet, even if you were to miss where you're trying to aim, it still has this gigantic radius, so you end up hitting people all around. And on top of that, when you hit people from the sides, you can end up just they can body block it from hitting people around them, right? They just kind of stop the AOE, right? So typically when we throw nades, throw them at the floor in the feet between as many people as possible, right? So far when we have thrown nades, I've maybe seen us hit like one person, right, with it, which just, hitting, now of course you're not gonna, like I said, you're not gonna be getting this all the time, but hitting 6 people is not going to be just 6 times as valuable, but over 6 times as valuable, because you're going to be much exponentially more able to get kills off of that, right? So it's just going to be such high value if you're getting 6 versus 1. So maybe like 10, let's just say like 10 times the value in a 6k nade versus a 1k nade, right? Or even like getting a 3k nade is going to be much better than a 1k nade, maybe like 4 times the value, right? So we want to look for big nades if possible, more on how to land nades. Besides this, real quick, just a nade tech if you're unfamiliar with it. Maybe you are. Not a lot of people are, though. I wasn't familiar with this until very late in my career. So when it comes to landing nades, right, long distance nades, this is a very easy tech to do so. All you have to do is scope in. This does not work if you are unscoped. You're going to line up your ultimate charge with somebody and press your E button. This will hit somebody with a nade from... Yeah?
Okay.
That was my reaction.
Wow.
Yep. So you can...
That's super helpful.
Yeah. Right, not going to be super helpful when they're like right next to you, but if they're medium to long range away, right, you're just going to line it up. When you're on more even footing with them, it's going to be more like your Q here, right? So I'm going to, let's see, he's moving, so, right. So toss that in there, right? Lands pretty much on him. Helpful tool for landing nades at longer distances. Moving on, let's discuss things that can get in the way of your abilities. So there's a lot of different obstacles, and we want to think about those obstacles so we can look to get around said obstacles. So said obstacles would be teammates, right? Teammates can get in the way of our nades. If we're not trying to hit this person, then he ends up blocking it. Very simple way to negate this is to walk to the side, right? Walk left, walk right. We can walk past if we'd like to. Just don't sit there, and also make sure we're paying attention to them, because, not when we just don't pay attention to them, they end up just walking in front of us at the very last second, and then we end up not being able to land the ability, right? So pay attention to them. Besides that, we have walls and things that can block them. Hopefully you're paying attention to walls. Don't let, random... inanimate objects get in the way, right? That should be a no-brainer, right? Besides that, pay attention to shields and tanking abilities. So, what abilities on their team, like Defense Matrix and Bubble, right, can get in the way of it. Make sure we're watching for it. Shields, make sure we're looking to get around there. We have a lot of options in terms of getting around both of those things, right? We can wait till the character is dead, till they are nowhere near the fight or nowhere near their team, right? If Reinhardt's over here and their team's over here, that's a free nade, right? You can wait till their shield is broken or the defense matrix is gone. You can look to just get around it. Wait till Reinhardt drops his shield, right? Wait till he's not paying attention and looking the wrong way, right? You have a lot of options with this. Look to get around it, but simplest way of all is to just completely negate all of them, right? And that is to go for what you call off angles. So here, right, this is the enemy team, our team, main angle, right? If we were to just come, if we were to try to go down the main angle, we run into all of the obstacles we just discussed, right? Our team, enemy team shield, enemy team tanks, enemy team tanking abilities, right? And they just block it from hitting everybody behind them, right? Whereas if we just come to the side real quick, well, now we've just gone past everything, right? Our team, their teammates, their shields, their tanking abilities, straight to the back line, right? Now this is very fast. It's very safe. It only took us a couple seconds, and we're right back to our team, right? So going for off angles is going to be a very efficient way to land your nades, and then also your sleeps as well. But nades, it's probably more important for the nades, right? And we want to make sure we're looking for those types of things. Now, another example. Enemy team, our team, main angle. You know, just take a couple seconds. We can still heal our team from here. Now we're coming up high, right? Took us maybe like 3 seconds to get up high, right? Toss a nade, straight to the back line, no obstacles. High grounds all act, this is another advantage of high grounds. They all act as natural off angles as long as they're below us, right? If they're a mile away, then the shield still blocks you, right? But from here, we can just get it over the shield very easily, right? So that is nades, how to land them. Just roughly, there's maybe some more nuance that goes into it, but that's all the basics in terms of how to get them. Trying to think. I think one other thing we're going to discuss real quick was scoped versus unscoped usage. So when do you use your scope? When do you not use your scope? I don't think we're atrocious with this, but like I think kind of like with all these different things is it's like a little bit of everything at the moment that I'm seeing. So we'll discuss it. Your unscope. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each, right? So your unscope is going to have the advantage of increased visibility, you can see a bunch, increased mobility, you can move around, whereas when you scope in, those two are now negated, right, or constricted. You can, it's also a projectile by nature, right? Whereas alternatively, your scope is going to stop your movement speed, which is going to be more handy for hitting shots accurately at a range. You're going to have a constricted line of sight, which is, again, going to be more handy for landing shots at a distance. And you also have an instant shot, which is going to be more handy for landing shots at a distance. 1 second, we'll take a sip of water.
Okay.
All right.
So I do have a question, probably for later.
Yeah, go ahead.
Figuring out priority targets.
For healing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to healing, so like are you saying, for example, if I have 2 people who are critical, who takes the priority? Like 2 people who are in equal danger, equal critical, or are you talking about, like, give me an example maybe of what you're asking.
I mean, that also, but then if, say, like when I was running away from the enemy team and I was healing up Hog, I could have just turned around and naded the Rhine. How, I don't know, like how to really think about those things.
So like when do you prioritize like going for a nade over healing your team?
I try to look, I try to look for the like neutral nades, as well as, like, I feel like I know the defensive nades and whatnot, but like, how do I know when to, like, take the off angle?
Okay. So are you asking maybe like, how do you know whether or not to offensive nade or defensive nade?
Yeah.
All right. So defensive nades, healing nades come when healing nades are needed. Right, you do not dictate when healing nades are needed. Your teammates will dictate when healing nades are needed, or more accurately, the enemy team will. Right, you don't decide when your teammates are going to be critical and in danger, but they will all of a sudden be critical and in danger. And when that is the case, now your healing nade is needed to keep them alive. Right, if they are not critical or in danger, then you can go for the anti-nade because they are not in need of the healing nade. Now, to clarify as well, there is a difference between being critical and being in danger. I can be critical and let's say the enemy team's all over here. I can be critical and around this corner and I am not in danger, right? And I can be in danger being in the middle of their team right here and full HP, right? and be in danger, right?
Right.
If I were to nade that full HP person, nade does nothing. If I were to
Right.
nade this person who's not in danger, it's not needed, right? So
Mhm.
nades are needed when person is critical and in danger, right? When they need healing and when they're in danger is when you're typically going to heal nade somebody. If that is needed, go for the heal nade. If it is not needed, then go for the damage nade, right? Because there's no reason to hold on to the ability for when it's not needed. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, that's a great explanation.
All right. So continuing on with the scope versus unscope, right? So
Yeah.
unscope, right? Good close range, right? So that means that roughly, right? It's approximate. From squishy targets, so anything that's not a tank, right? It's going to be 10 meters is unscoped. Past that is scoped, right?
Okay.
Now tanks have bigger hitboxes, so you can bump this up to like 15 meters on tanks, right? 15 meters unscoped. 20 and then anything past that is scoped, right? So that's approximate. You can go a little bit further than that with unscoped. It depends on the situation, right? But sometimes you're just a little bit off where like we would be unscoping at this distance or we would be scoping up in this distance, right? So sometimes we would just have those a little bit backwards, just wanting to understand when is the right situation, which will mainly, the big thing is this will up your accuracy and allow you to hit more shots. And it also, another aspect of that is it'll stop you from getting killed. Like if you're hard scoping like an inch from somebody, right, that could end up getting you like killed much easier up against enemy characters. So, helping out with all of that. Alright, so we are on Hollywood.
Welcome to Holly Ready for Battle.
Alright, so I will give you an example of when we could have gone. When do we... Let's see. So this is an example of when we maybe could have looked for an off angle. So rather than standing on cart here, right, which again maybe isn't a very great place to be standing. Alternatively, I would probably say you'd be in a really good spot standing like over here on the side, right, as we can still heal our team. But then you have this really good angle where you can just kind of peek very easily and land an aid. Now, it's not perfect because they're still kind of in front of you here, but it is going to be much easier because this gets us around the entire obstacle of all of our teammates, right?
Right.
And also, if they were to walk past you, then that's an easy nade. You can also maybe throw it like above shield, possibly here. Like if Reinhardt's shield is, let's see, where is it? Maybe not above, but you can throw them around them decently easy. So it just opens up for better nades than when we're standing right here.
Okay.
Now, besides that, to add in 2 extra points to your positioning, right? There's general positioning, which is what we discussed before, but you also have Ana specific positioning, right? Now, within Ana specific positioning, you have 3 different boxes you look to check off. We've already discussed one of them, but this kind of goes in a little bit of an order of importance. Number 1 is, can I see my team? If you cannot see your team, you're essentially in a base misunderstanding of your kit. You're not able to heal people, which is what you need to do as a support, right? So
Right.
far, I think we're good on that one. You're fine. Number 2 is, can I land abilities and can I land abilities, right? So this more specifically would be off angling, right? Is the main one, but it could also be like, are you on high ground? That's another aspect that comes into that. But are you in a position where you can more easily land abilities than just defaultly behind my team, right? That would be, for example, instead of right here, over here. The other aspect to think about is, can the enemy team see me? Now look at our current positioning, right? The answer to that question would be, yes, they can see me. Answer usually is, you probably want to make that a no. You don't really want the enemy team to see you. Typically as Ana, right, aside from you landing your abilities, you're not going to be shooting at the enemy team too often, right? Which means that you don't want this constant stream of damage from them coming to you. So, for example, being over here on the side negates, pretty much their entire team from being able to see you. We can see our team. And if we wanted to, we can just peek for abilities very easily, right? So there's no reason to let them shoot us for free and to take unnecessary damage and maybe end up dying when we could just put ourselves around the corner, right? So look to check off those boxes, and then those 3 boxes, and then also like do I have cover? Do I have a high ground, right? Additional
Right.
ones. So that's more positioning. So that's an example of maybe like chucking it straight at Reinhardt, where he just kind of tanks it from hitting everybody behind him. So that just hits one person.
If I hit it at the floor, would it have hit more people?
I mean, we can go back and
Because
check
I
real
think
quick.
I was looking for that neutral nade.
Neutral nade is in like hitting your teammates. Is that, or what do you mean by
Teammates
neutral?
and enemies.
Teammates and enemies. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, like I have no objection to that. Like as many people as you can get in it is good, right? If you're healing and damaging at the same time, that's usually good. But you probably could, like in this situation, like if your Reinhardt doesn't need it, right? Like when we toss it, your Reinhardt's full HP, right? Like maybe your Reinhardt doesn't really need it. Now let's see, like if we, for example, like threw it a little bit to the right, right here, right? Just like placement a little bit to the right, and we like kind of throw it to here, right? You can still see ourselves from here. That probably would have fit through, right? Now you're hitting 1, 2, 3. That's a 4-man anti-nade, right?
Right.
So just that little bit of an adjustment makes all the difference.
Okay.
You know, between getting like a single man and 4-man, right?
Okay.
Okay. This right here. So I've seen a little bit of this. So but let's discuss this. This is called overhealing. Now it's not as of we saw this during fights. At the moment, it's not like a super big deal because it's in between fights, but it demonstrates a bad habit that I've seen that we have, and a lot of supports have, and that is when people are full HP. Then you don't need to heal them, right? Just flat up, right? It does absolutely nothing. And in fact, it is a negative as it ends up wasting ammo, which means you have to reload. It ends up wasting time where you could be looking for somebody who actually needs healing. You could be looking to use abilities. You could be paying attention to, I don't know, paying attention to tab, paying attention to your environment, looking to think about your plan for the next fight. You have so many different options that you could be doing with your time that does not include absolutely nothing, right? So watch overhealing, pay attention to health bars. When people are full HP, they don't really need you. In fact, like in between fights, this is fine, but like when you're in the middle of a fight, even if somebody's like 90% like full HP, right? Like somebody's like 180, 190 HP, you probably don't need to take the time to heal that extra little bit of HP. If you're in between a fight, do it. If you're not, then there's probably something more pressing you could be doing at that moment besides healing their 20 HP, 10 HP, right?
Yeah.
So here we just see a couple shots of that. Like I said, not a big deal in between the fight, but it does become a big deal in the fight. Like right here, you know, the fight's beginning and we want to have that ammo and we're shooting a couple of shots in. I might also recommend getting a little bit closer. Now, a lot of Ana players think at certain points that like they are a sniper, which is not wrong if you're talking about her gun, but Ana's entire kit is not her gun. So in fact, Ana likes to play a little bit closer, specifically because of her abilities. Her abilities, which are because they are both projectiles by nature, they are much more difficult to land at ranges, right? Like imagine trying to sleep somebody from all the way back here. Probably wouldn't be too easy. Whereas if we just inched forwards a little bit, probably be a little bit easier just because you have to predict less of where people are going to be at. So for the sake of ability usage, typically you don't want to stand a mile away from the fight. So probably here, like I don't stand on point, definitely here, but maybe something simply like just coming over and standing on this corner would get us closer, allow us to land abilities, still give us a decent bit of safety, having cover to use, seeing our team, right? Checks off most of the boxes. We might have a little bit of an extra off angle here from being able to do this, right? This is an example of an off angle, right? Another one.
Right.
So I'd probably say like something like this might just be better because we'd actually be able to do things with our abilities instead of only being able to use our gun.
Okay.
Okay, notice some overhealing. So we do chuck in a nade there. This would be the range which you would use the scope tech, but I think it is almost it does its stuff. I think it misses our bastion just barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like we're doing a lot of just like. All right. Make sure we're putting like kind of concentration and effort into our shots, so we're not just going pew 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 without really thinking about it, right? So look, while we look through this, just look how many shots are wasted out of this whole clip.
So many.
So yeah, so we come in here, right? We overheal 2 shots, right? All, not too terrible, but we overheal 2 shots. It matters when it's the whole thing, right? So that's 2 shots wasted. Right, fight that happens. That one's fine, right? Second one, not fine because he's full HP and it goes through him, so that's 3 shots wasted. Okay, that one's fine. Okay, that one's fine. That one's just going. Oh, one moment here. My baby sister called in the room.
Okay.
All right, sorry, I am back. All right, so I think we were at like 5 there. They were missed, like 6 right there, right? We're just kind of shooting into the wall at the moment. 7 into the wall, right? Then we shoot into the wall again, 8, 9.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
so then that shot's right. So like 9 out of 12, right? Not a great rate to have there. And obviously, like we can, like if we're paying attention, we see that the wall is not a person, right? We see that we're not aiming at the same level. So make sure we're keeping our crosshair at like the level of where people are. Typically, people like besides jumping and people being on high grounds, there's not going to be a lot of like verticality with aiming. There's a lot more like horizontal movement where you're going left, right, left, right. You're not going up and down a ton, again, besides like people jumping and people being on a higher platform. So make sure we're setting it on the road. Like here, you can just see like the entirety of the fight is happening within this row. So put your crosshair on this like row, and that's going to help you land your shots a little bit better than being up in the air with it. As you can see, just both abilities didn't really do anything yet again, just because of the range mainly here.
This will help.
Okay, so here, who are we gonna nano?
You're powered up.
Alright, so let us discuss Nano Priority. So Nano Priority means basically...
I think
good.
Genji had asked for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then in that case, I would say don't listen to bad calls, because listening to bad calls is going to end up losing USR, right?
Right.
So if you identify that somebody makes a bad call out, don't listen to said bad call out. So in any case here, right? Like we'll have an easy. This makes nanoing very easy. Is identify at the start of every single round of every game, you want to identify the 3 best targets to be nanoing, right? So like you go 1, 2, 3. This is the best person. This is the second best person. This is the third best person. This is for the reason that sometimes you only nano somebody for their ultimate. If they don't have their ultimate, you move on the second best. If this person is dead and you need a nano, or they're out of commission, or you can't see them and you need to get a nano off, then you move to second person and third person for the same reason, right? So in this composition, right, if you're to look at our team comp, right, noting that you can tie people if you feel like you want to, you can like set conditions on when you nano somebody, and you can go up to 4th person if you want to, or you can say I'll nano these four people, right? All those are fine. It's flexible. Just what would you say the order would be on our team?
Probably Reinhardt, Genji, Bastion.
Right. So Reinhardt would be number 1, then Genji with or without Blade, or?
He was saying that if I gave him Nano, it would help him greatly to get to Blade.
Okay. So let me correct a little bit about this. So first off, I'd say Nano Blade is one of the most powerful nano combos in the game, right? So Nano Blade certainly 100% takes the number 1 slot here, right? It almost always will take the number 1 slot in your given list if Nano Blade is an option. So Nano Blade would take the number 1 here. Genji without Nano is actually a pretty meh target to be nanoing. Situationally, you can, right? Like if you have nobody else to go for, you can also nano him if he's like really close to his blade. So like let's say he's like 90%. Well, if he's 90%, all he has to do is like dash through like 2 people, and then he has blade, right? So those are fine. But if he's at 14%, that's a very I'd say that's a very bad Nano, because Genji without Blade is a very meh character, and then Genji with Blade is a very powerful character. So, it'd probably, in this situation, be better to go for somebody else and then just Nano him when he actually has Blade, right? This would also just offset your cycle with each other. Like, if you Nano Genji here and he gets up to like 60%, well, now it's like 60 to 0. How are you going to catch up? Whereas if you Nano somebody else, then now you and him are pretty much on evenish playing fields, right? So in any case, Genji would be number 1 with Blade. Then number 2, I would probably say would be, here it gets a little bit close. I'd probably say Bastion with Ultimate would be number 2, as that'd be pretty powerful. Bastion without Ultimate is also pretty powerful, but I would probably say that this one gets difficult. You also have a lot of good options here for your Nano. So you honestly would not be too terrible nanoing a bunch of people here. So it would go Genji with Nano Blade, Bastion with ult. Third, I would probably say you could tie for Reinhardt and Nano Whole Hog. Both of those Reinhardt would probably just be easier to get off on him without having a combo with an ultimate, right? But Nano Whole Hog is also probably just like slightly better than the Reinhardt. So those two are pretty much tied for number 3. 4, you could probably tie at like Nano Coalescence and Nano Bastion, right? So you have a bunch of options there. This is just not a good option. I wouldn't Nano Genji because Nano Genji without Blade probably comes at like near the bottom of the list, right? So
Yeah.
just not the best target to be going for. Think through that list, every time you get in a game, so that you can pick out good targets.
Okay.
Alright, so just notice how like abilities so far have gotten a very minimum value, right? So we've already talked about how you can look to get more value out of them. Big thing, concentrate more on them. Here, Nade Tech would probably help a lot, but then also like getting closer would help. And then like the big one, make sure putting more effort, because it seems as though we're like, oh yeah, I have abilities, and we think about it for half a second, chuck it in, and then we're back to our normal gameplay, right? Whereas your abilities should be a very, very important part of your kit, because abilities are what allow you to carry on Ana, right? They're your carrying potential. Aside from abilities, you're just a heal bot. Just heal botting, you're probably not going to. You're just going to be mainly dictated by like what your team does. Like, healing is definitely still a very core fundamental part of your kit, but it's not how you impact the game. You impact the game through your ability usage on Ana, right?
Okay.
So make sure you're putting effort into your abilities, as we're not really doing that.
Go.
Okay.
I'll keep you here. Walk it off.
Okay. Both abilities just missed again. Besides that, when you are about to cap point, where's the one place the enemy team needs to go?
The point.
So where's the most dangerous place for you as a support to be standing?
The point.
Right. So probably
I just
usually
ran right up.
Yeah. So usually just put a little bit of distance between yourselves. This also gives you better visibility, because notice here we can't really see any of our team. Here we can see our team, right?
Okay.
Better positioning there as well. Let's see. We're gonna have more time to go over some stuff. All right. Good. I like the aggression with the nade. The problem is that, though, again, that we just kind of chuck it straight at the Reinhardt, and then he ends up blocking it from his surroundings. I actually don't know how that hit. Oh, that hit our Reinhardt. Okay, because he jumped up into it. But, watching for them, because if we end up getting around these obstacles, right, like if we just pay attention and we just throw it, maybe we throw it like up slightly, right? Then we get, 4-man nade here, right? 3-man nade here, right? 3-man nade here, right? You have a lot, like these guys are all grouped up, pretty much, and you could get it like almost anywhere there that is like better than this nade, or not, not anywhere, but I'm saying you have a lot of options to get it better. So looking for more high-powered value out of it. I think that might be like the first time we landed asleep. I'm unsure of this. Maybe we landed 1 or 2 before, but
yeah, I think that was the first one.
So it's like a rare occasion, right? One, like let's say even 2 or 3 in 8 minutes is, or 7 minutes. Right? Let's take out that in, whatever, right? Not a good rate to have, right? want to put more effort into it because it's still, again, a very powerful ability. You can shut down a bit, so look to shut down specifically abilities and ultimates, and you can look to, you know, do what you did here, chuck it into a crowd of people, look to get it on a bunch of people, but we end up missing it a lot, putting more effort into it. Alright. Request healing when you are low. This is going to get your other support to look at you faster, get you healing faster instead of sitting at 60 HP.
I think I had said that or requested it.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, typically it gives you an like the audio cue when you do request it.
Okay.
So yeah. In any case, recommend it. Also might recommend if you don't like your support's not looking at you, throw a heal nade. That way you're not sitting at 60 HP. You also have a health pack in the left room there. So we're gonna exile here. We are now going to go over the main points of the session, do a quick review, and then wrap up the session from there. So. Let's see, go through ability usage. We talked a ton on abilities, right? They're your carrying potential, put a lot of effort into them. Sleep, look to lead your shots. Maybe something else to add in slightly, I guess, yeah, we'll rush through it. Here, sleep usage, same thing as your regular usage, but people tend to get this even worse than regular shooting, is don't flick unnecessarily. I don't think we did this terribly, just maybe a couple tiny little times, but typically, flicking is needed in certain instances and is not needed in others, right? So flicking is needed when there's a very fast-moving target, tracer's blinking around us, we have to flick to catch up to her. Someone sneaks up behind you, you have to flick to look at them. Someone just appears on our screen, we have to flick up to shoot at the person, right? So somebody pops up here, we have to flick up to shoot at the person, right? But when flicking is not needed is when we're already staring straight at the person. When we're already looking here, we don't need to flick. There's no reason, and it can actually mess with your shots. Yeah, it's unnecessary, right? It can just end up messing with your aim, and especially, that applies to your gun, but I notice especially a lot of times with Ana players, and a little bit with you, is that you'll shoot normally, and then all of a sudden you'll get to sleep, and you'll go, "Wata!" right? And randomly flick with it. Don't do that. Fire it off normally. Besides that, lead it. Nade usage, toss it at the floor in between as many people as possible. Nade tech, scope in at a distance. Besides that, again, lead it. We'll get to the positioning aspect of it in a moment. Put effort into your abilities, right? Overall, I'd probably say ability usage goes to a medium-high priority for you to work on, right? Pretty important. Ultimate usage, make sure that we are paying attention to, like, the, we talked about the, well, what do you call that? The priority list, right, of who do you want to be nanoing.
Yeah.
Besides that, I think we only really saw like one bad nano, if I'm not I think we only just saw that one. We only saw that one at the end there. So honestly, wasn't as big. I'd like to see like more of them, but you know, we have more sessions that will come along, so we'll get to more ultimate usages. But here with the nano boost, probably say like a low to medium priority. Moving on, mechanics, make sure we're not trying to overheal people, watch health bars, make sure we're not shooting off randomly into space, right? Make sure not keeping a crosshair up here, but keeping it on body level with where people are. Might recommend lowering sensitivity. I double check that DPI thing. If it's, I'd probably say like if you have an EDPI, which again is your sensitivity multiplied by your DPI, if that's like over like 6,000, I might recommend like lowering that. That gets like pretty high. 5,000 is okay. No, I wouldn't say there's a big problem with that. And honestly, I didn't think the sensitivity looked too bad after that first like 20 seconds. So I just, you know, thing to double check.
I just got excited.
Yeah, not a big thing. Besides that, I think that's about it. Overall, that one probably goes to like a low to medium as well, somewhere around that. One thing to add in with the nade usage was the when to heal teammates was like, you know, heal when they're low and in danger.
Yeah.
Go for the offensive anti-nade when they're not. Moving on, positioning. Make sure we are using cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Take high grounds. High grounds are fantastic for you. Many benefits. Go for off angles, right? Off angles are fantastic. Get you around all the things that can block your abilities. Think about all those different things when it comes to your ability usage as well, right? What can block my nades and my sleeps? Because you're not always going to have an off angle, right? They're only going to be there like maybe like 50% of the time, right, as an option. They're not always going to be there as an option, so you have to learn how to get around those obstacles without them. So besides that, so those 4 obstacles are teammates, walls and stuff, and objects, shields, and then tanking abilities. Besides that, check off all the boxes on Ana positioning. Number 1 is, can I see my team? 2 is, can I land abilities, which is off-angling? And then 3 is, can the enemy team see me? There's no reason to let them see you if you're not, if you're just healing your team. If you go for an ability, you can peek. If you're shooting at people, you can peek, right? Overall positioning probably went to maybe the higher end of medium. And then finally, we have awareness. Awareness is paying attention to your environment, right? Watching your health bar, requesting healing when we're low, watching enemy health bars, so we know, and teammate health bars, right? When do we go for healing nades versus anti-nades? When do we, making sure we're not overhealing, like I said. Pay attention to your audio awareness, like who's around us. Pay attention to your just your surroundings in general. Where's the enemy team? Where's my team? Right? There's just a lot of odds and ends stuff here. Just in general, paying attention. When the fight's lost, make sure you're looking to get out. Don't stay in there, or let them kill you. Alternatively, if you can't get out. And then overall, that one probably goes to maybe the lower end of the medium spectrum. And then let me just put that in order real quick. Number 1 is going to be your ability usage. Number 2 is your positioning. 3 is awareness. 4 is ultimate usage. And then 5 is mechanics. Do you have any questions on anything we've gone over, or just anything else in general?
I did, but I forgot.
Well, if you ever, if you remember it, just feel free to, if it's a longer question, feel free to just bring it up in the next session, as I think you ordered more sessions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if it's longer, feel free to bring up the next one. If it's really short, and I can answer real fast, then feel free to just message me with it. That'd be fine. Besides that, if you don't got anything else, I'm gonna stop the recording there.